Welcome back to my channel. I just want to do a little talk again today. I know a lot of my videos are me talking and not doing, but after my last post regarding the spindle moulder and these small little tweaks that I've done to the fence, etc., I just thought I'd do a little follow-on video to that, because I've been using it as a router table today, because I wanted to do some mouldings that I hadn't really got spindle moulder cutters for. So I had to set the router table setup up, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to show you the advantages of the iTech spindle moulder and also the Festool router, to be able to combine the two as a router table. And this is kind of my setup, you know, should I need to use this form of creating moulds. So I'm just going to do just a little talk. I'm not going to show you me using it, and I haven't showed, I'm not going to do a video of me actually making the fencing, because I think anyone that, you know, that's going to be using this or looking at using this, you know, are more accomplished to be able to look at something and be able to pretty much copy it, should you want to. You don't need me to show you how to put grooves into pieces of wood. You know, I'm sure you can more than capable of doing that. So I'm just going to show you my setup, the advantages to, you know, what I like about it. It was a little bit of a, I thought I was going to have to kind of go down the route of buying like a separate router and then getting like a mounting plate that you have to get. I know Axminster sell them. I think it's UKJ Technology that they do one. There's other ones as well, where you've got like an independent lift system where you can kind of, you know, it raises and lowers the router. This isn't quite as sophisticated as that. I'll show you. I'll show you how I kind of get around that a little bit. But it's you know, it's a decent trade-off, and this can be packed away. It's literally just a flat board, so it's not taking up any space in the unit. You know, I know if you have, sometimes you have a designated router station, you know, you've actually got like effectively another machine to kind of find somewhere to store, whereas with this it's just a board. And it goes back to my other video about my workbench, about the sort of the gap in the workbench, allows me to, you know, to do this kind of setup with the router. The router's obviously underneath the table, so it needs a space for it to be able to go into. So that works really well. So I'm just going to flip the camera around now, so you can basically see what it is that I've kind of got set up. I'll just kind of point to a few different things, and then I'll show you how the kind of the router goes on and off, you know, changing cutters and etc. So I'll just change it around now. So this is the router table. So basically what it is what I've done is I've literally, rather than have to make two different fences, so rather than have to make like another fence setup, you know, specifically for this router, all I've basically done is transferred this from the spindle moulder. So this just basically there's nuts underneath there, so these just tighten down into nuts, so they tighten up. So literally when I take that off, that goes back onto the spindle moulder, which is over there. You can see it set up there with the fence off it. So yeah, and what I like about this spindle moulder, because it's kind of a light duty sort of starting spindle moulder. This isn't that heavy, so it's you can transfer it very easily. Whereas when I worked at my last joinery company, and they had Watkin spindle moulders, really heavy duty. When you were lifting this off, because you did have to take it off if you're doing any ring fencing or anything like that, occasionally you had to take it off. It was really heavy. You didn't want to have to be lifting it up and down. And obviously with this setup, what I've got here, with you having to kind of lift this up to get the router, you don't really want this to be too heavy. So one of the things that I really like about this, about using the spindle moulder setup, is the fact that you can put a 100mm extraction port out the back, which is just linked to my extractor, via a flexible hose at the moment, and it'll always be that kind of setup because this is just as and when I need it. But I think probably a lot of people, if you do regularly use a router table, and if you've just got it ported to a normal vac, depending on what you're doing, if you're doing some heavy duty moulding, I would imagine the vac gets pretty full pretty quickly. Whereas with this, it just sucks the dust through, absolutely no issues whatsoever. So that's another great kind of point of using this. So kind of all the work that I did by making this setup for the spindle moulder also benefited me for this. So then all I had to do for this was, I've just again white melamine board, and all I literally had to do is put a groove in here for this track, and then what I do is the board that I use for the spindle moulder is there, which is that there, and all I do is just take the track, because the track isn't screwed in, it's not screwed in, it doesn't need to be screwed in, so basically the track just lifts out, and I'll change it between whichever one I'm using. So and then you've got all the stops. You've got all the stops on there, and I'll show you some of the moulding that I've done. So it's just a kind of, let's just come into focus, but just that little moulding this morning, and another sort of like a chamfered detail with a little shadow gap. These are going to be for a shaker door setup, basically some beading for some shaker doors. So I'm just going to basically put the camera down now, and I'll show you how I basically take the router on and off. So the router is under here, which is it's under here basically, and I can't really show you that easily, but to adjust the router up and down, I can use my knee. I can just get my knee just underneath there, and put my knee to the top of the router, and kind of just raise my foot up or down to be able to just adjust it, and then I can always just set the adjustable stop on the router. Once I get it close, I can set the adjustable stop to tweak it just that little bit. And yes, it's not as good as something where you can access from the top and turn like a handle, and it raises the router really slowly in very small increments. But so like I said on my other video, most of the time I would probably be using the spindle moulder, and this is just a quick addition really. It's not something that I'm going to be using a lot of, so I think it's an okay trade-off to not have it absolutely perfect. I think I think it works really well for what it is. So that's just something to bear in mind. But I'll show you the kind of the router setup when I kind of lift it up. You'll see how it's done. I'm fortunate enough to have for this router, I have got the base sets. So for this router, I've used one of the bases out of the set to permanently attach it to this. This is the normal base that's usually on the router, but rather than have to buy the bases to get this set up, you can just you can just drill this and fix this to the underside. I mean, there are holes here, look, that you could use if you wanted to. Well, yeah, they're actually so there's holes already in the base, so you can just use the existing base. You don't have to buy the set, but I'm just lucky enough to have the set, so I've just attached one permanently on there. So I'll just take it off now, flip it up so you can kind of see the setup that I've got underneath. So that's the router underneath. Then you just, if you haven't seen this router before, this Festool, it's the 2020 EB. It's one of the, I think it's the most powerful one they do. There's just a little flick switch there. It's a little green switch, and then that's the base. These are just some turn knobs that basically the handles locate into. So I'm just tightening them up, and that holds the fence down to this. So that's the router when it's off. Yeah, so this is the router without the base on, and then this is the base that's usually on the router. So that just clicks back on there like that. And then I'll just kind of leave that on there. And then I can just basically just take this off and put that back on the spindle moulder, and then pull this back out, put that back on there, and then that's just stored as a flat board in the workshop, which is fine. Just a little bit more info on the router, the Festool router. If anyone's kind of looking at possibly getting that router, I mean, it's a big investment. I think they're about 950 quid. So it's a big investment, and I've got to be honest, it's a great tool, but it really, I think it comes into its own if you're needing to, depending on what materials you're using it for. It's really suited well for, like, if you're doing solid surface. It's very powerful for that, and it really doesn't struggle cutting through it, whether you're rebating or grooving or whatever you're doing with it. So it's a really heavy duty router, and it will cope with a lot, and the extraction is amazing on it, and it is very versatile, but it is a big tool. It is quite heavy, so if you're trying to do like small mouldings and things like that, it can be a little bit cumbersome sometimes. So, like, some of the cheaper normal kind of 1/2 inch routers would be more than adequate to do that. But what I'm saying, what I like about this, and I'm just fortunate to be able to have that tool. But it's just made, having the iTech spindle moulder and that router as a combination together. I think it's like, when you add the two together for for everything that you get for it, money wise. I think it gives you a huge versatility of what you can do, which I really like. So that's just something to bear in mind. I know, you either have to have you have to have a separate router for handheld use, and then a separate router for fixed in like a router table. If you don't want the hassle to keep taking the router on and off these carriages, because some of them aren't the easiest, and sometimes you have to take the handles off of the router to get them in the carriages. And so when I kind of looked at router tables, and I was thinking, God, I've got to buy another router and this, that and the other, and then I kind of dropped on this solution, and it's worked really well. I just thought it'd be a nice addition to the video that I did on the spindle moulder. And it's just really these talking videos are just for people like myself that have got probably their own small workshop, that you might be in the process of like looking at buying a few machines, or or doing some little refinements, and we're all kind of looking for different ideas. So these sort of videos are targeted to people similar to myself, really. I just want to say again, thank you I've had a few other people subscribe to the channel. So my numbers are still quite low, but hopefully I'll gather a little bit of a pace once I make probably some more interesting videos of making projects or seeing projects come together. I'll just there's some things going on behind the scenes, but because of all the restrictions that have come in now with social isolating, it's made things a little bit more difficult for me, like meeting up with people that were going to help me with editing and things like that. So I've had to I'm going to have to wait on that. So I just want to try and do a few quick fire videos where there's no real editing. I can just get it out there. It gives you a little bit of information. There's a bit of interest that you might not have seen before, and just it keeps a little bit of something coming through the channel. So people that have come on board, I'm just not waiting weeks and months for like a new video. I'll end it there. If you've watched, brilliant. If it's helped you, even better. If you haven't seen me on Instagram, Ben Cartwright Joinery, come and have a look at some of my actual work on Instagram. I've got plenty of pictures on there. And if you're on Instagram and you haven't seen my YouTube videos, and vice versa. I hope everyone's well, safe, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks.